Hey there everyone, this is Michael Dougal, and during this video we're going to have a discussion around Dileucine Peptide, which supposedly can build muscle 40% more effectively than leucine. But is it worth taking? That's the major question, because if you're like me, you're probably very sick of being lied to about supplements specifically around building muscle. We of course know that creatine is very effective. We know that whey protein and getting sufficient protein intake during the day is going to help with building muscle. But just how effective would be using something like Dileucine Peptide? And we're also going to discuss some of the side effects around the use. And if you're not familiar with branched chain amino acids, that's the first step in educating yourself about this type of supplement, because branched chain amino acids are looked at as the building blocks of building muscle. What they do is they stimulate something called protein synthesis. And when your protein synthesis levels are elevated, it's more likely that when you ingest protein, the protein is going to be shuttled toward your muscle cells. And there's quite a bit of controversy and discussion around, do you actually need branched chain amino acid supplementation? Because branched chain amino acids, they're pretty easy to find in food. You're going to find them in most meats out there. Quinoa actually has a pretty rich amino acid profile. And if you look up your popular pre-workout supplement, this is one I have here. It does have the 3 branched chain amino acids, them being L-leucine, L-isoleucine, and L-valine. Now, do they absolutely need that for you to have a good performance and make sure that you're recovering well? That's questionable, but one way in which branched chain amino acids do have a lot of research backing their effectiveness is when you use them in a fasted state. So let's say if you're waking up, you go hit a workout, you're going to be better off having some branched chain amino acids prior to your workout, because research does show that you're going to be more likely to retain your muscle and to some extent be in a more anabolic state than catabolic state. But if we narrow it down further, looking at the 3 branched chain amino acids around building muscle, the most popular and the most effective would be leucine. And one of the reasons why, if you're aspiring to build muscle, you're going to be better off ingesting protein is because of the fact that you're just more likely to get your branched chain amino acids in, as well as your other amino acids. And now where things become a bit questionable is when you start using branched chain amino acids between meals. And there's been a lot of discussion around this over the past decade, because people would often ingest branched chain amino acids between meals, thinking that it would help to keep their levels of protein synthesis elevated, so that when they were eating meals, they were eating that food and it would be going to the muscle cells versus not. And this of course sounds great and this sounds believable, but the reason why people don't incorporate this practice is because it's likely going to make a negligible difference. Perhaps if you're a bodybuilder or you compete, maybe you can make this justification, but this is like the same idea around having 6 meals a day. And I think we all realize at this point, what's more important is not that you have your 6 meals during the day, it's that you hit your macros. And for that reason, I'm going to say thumbs down to Dileucine Peptide. And I think people do a great job of underestimating how effective the placebo effect is. And let's take a look at the paper that was published actually University of Toronto, my school. And what happened was they aimed to determine the effect of a Dileucine containing essential amino acid formula, being 2 grams of Dileucine and 1 gram of leucine, on the anabolic response after resistance exercise in young recreational active adults when compared with ingesting branched chain amino acids. So they had their Dileucine peptide drink, their leucine, and they had branched chain amino acids. And they definitely concluded that the Dileucine enriched essential amino acids supported greater whole body anabolism after resistance exercise, independent of any attenuation in estimates of MPB in healthy young adults. Meaning that it didn't matter how strenuous the exercise was, the subjects that were ingesting the Dileucine peptide did see better results, but they saw the results post-exercise. So it's important to understand here, we have very limited research here. We have several studies that were done on humans, and the studies all showed pretty good results. However, nothing really did study like the longevity of the supplement. And most importantly, especially when you're evaluating a supplement like this, to what extent would it even be significant? For example, it'd be great if they had 2 groups of individuals and one group took Dileucine Peptide and then another group was just using branched chain amino acids, and then they saw perhaps there was like an increase in fat-free muscle mass, perhaps there was a decrease in body fat levels. Like that would give us some real solid evidence that Dileucine Peptide would actually be a useful supplement. But for the time being, and with the very little research we have supporting this, I would say that this is the equivalent of you ingesting a little bit more protein during the day. But one of the reasons why Dileucine Peptide could be more effective than leucine is because of the way in which leucine is absorbed is a lot more efficient when you're using Dileucine Peptide. So whatever sort of response you would get as far as elevating your muscle protein synthesis, it would be more significant if you ingest Dileucine Peptide versus L-leucine. As shown on one of the papers, they found that leucine got into the blood more quickly when participants consumed Dileucine versus if they just had free leucine. And that on the protein synthesis side, they saw that Dileucine turns up the muscle building process more than leucine does. So for the time being, while we're waiting for more research on Dileucine Peptide, we can confirm that it really doesn't hurt to use it, but just everyone wants to make sure they're lowering their expectation, because even if you're you're to ingest branched chain amino acids pre and post workout, it never makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. And rather, people are making sure that they're having adequate protein post workout when you're recovering, and that pre workout, they're having a good balance of carbohydrate and protein for them to have a good workout. If there's anything perhaps I had noticed during the time when I was ingesting branched chain amino acids prior to working out as well as post working out, was that I may have recovered a little bit faster. Maybe I didn't feel as sore as I typically would, but even then, I'm not too sure about it. And so with Dileucine Peptide, perhaps it could be a good practice using it post workout, since we have limited research as far as how effective it could be during the day. Or if maybe you were to use 2 grams a day, would it make any difference if you weren't working out? It is somewhat exciting though for the elder population. I think elder people, they have to be a little bit more careful. They need to be ingesting protein. And so anything that they can do to preserve muscle is really going to help them. With respect to anecdotes, I found literally nothing. Nobody has said anything good about the supplement. A lot of people are just theorizing around. Everyone's looking at each other and saying, you try it. Let me know how it goes. And so nobody has really gone out and said that it's useful or not. Well, but fortunately, we shouldn't be too concerned about side effects. Some of the side effects that are associated with branched chain amino acids can be a brain fog for some individuals, although that is somewhat rare. But what are your thoughts about this supplement? Should people be using it? Should they avoid it? Be sure to comment below. And if you did find value from this video, subscribe, drop a like. And if you want to chat with me one-on-one, you can message me on Patreon. And be sure to visit our Discord server where we have a 24/7 chat room. We're answering questions in a time-sensitive fashion. I thank you for your support and look forward to seeing you next time.